Chiefs are putting the offense back together, some ups and some downs today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Friends and neighbors, Chiefs Kingdom around the world. Glad to see you back. We're brought to you today by Gametime. And right now, you can get in on the deal by downloading the app, signing up for an account, and using our code LOCKEDONNFL. And that's going to get you $20 off of your first ticket purchase, no matter what. Check it out anywhere that you can get it. Terms do apply, but it is Gametime. Download that app now. We have the initial look at OTAs is in the books. We have plenty of takeaways from the first glimpse of what this offense in particular, but this team is going to progress. We're going to cover it here a couple of times here this week as we work through the rest of the week. He's Chris Clark from Chiefs Corner, where he sets you all up on the cap, the business side, the quarterbacks, everything that you need to know. It's all there at ChiefsCorner.com. Go get subscribed over there. I am Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. You can get us at RogueAPC.com, as well as NFL 33, where I just had a piece come out taking a look at notebook from around the league, what's going on where. Check that too. And RGR Football, where we break down the film and do everything for you on the Chiefs. You can get that much more information if you want more at the text line. Our locos are on there. The local Locked On Chiefs everyday supporters there every day, all the time at 816-357-8781. But it all starts here on YouTube, on the Locked On Podcast Network. That's where we do it. You can like, sub, and hit the bell here, as well as go out to the podcast platforms of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any podcast you can get for free. You can get us 5 days a week. We're going to cover what's missing from this initial look at OTAs. Notes from both sides of the ball, things that stood out, and we'll start on the offensive side. I think number one thing trying to put this thing together is newbies. What do you have?
I do want to dive into newbies, but I do want to mention we are having problems with Amazon. So if you're not getting the show on Amazon, that's why. It's not just you. We are having some problems. So lots of different places you can get us. Just wanted to throw that out there because it was pointed out to us. You start talking about newbies. Andy Reid talked about the new guys, and said that he has really enjoyed seeing what those new guys have brought to this team so far. And specifically, you start looking at Mahomes and Hollywood Brown had a big play deep down the field. From what I understand it, Brown had a one-handed catch in the end zone. And even the defenders were actually talking about it a little bit later. Nick Bolton actually mentioned it, and I think so did Trent McDuffie during their press conferences. It's just kind of fun to see the players react and see how all this is coming about this year.
I think it is fun that the whole team gets behind it, because the defense knows if you can do that on us, you're going to help us put points up. And I think Patrick Mahomes in particular was very respectful about, hey, if we can make plays on our defense, we know that we're improving. And that goes a very long way. Andy Reid pointed out specifically the chemistry that he and Brown are building together. That's something that at this point, having practiced down in Texas and now together at the facility, it's only going to grow from there. If you're Hollywood Brown, this is kind of what you've been looking for, right? A chance to be, at least right now, first fiddle, first target that isn't Travis Kelce anyway, first downfield pass catcher that Patrick Mahomes can look to. So you want to put everything into that relationship. And for Patrick, he mentioned it very specifically that, hey, last couple of years, we got this intermediate and short area thing down. We're good. Now we're putting the deep game back into the plan and the overall offense. And I think that's music to everyone's ears, particularly mine, because we knew they had to do it. But to have it start day one and know that that is the first thing that you mentioned, that tells me that this isn't the game plan, not just for OTAs, but overall, that the goal of this season is to get a balanced, and that means deep threat offense back onto the field.
Yeah, and it's fun. You mentioned the defense and Mahomes talking, and it was really fun listening to Nick Bolton and to Trent McDuffie, and we'll get more into the defense tomorrow, but listening to them talk about how they work with Mahomes, and there's jawing back and forth. They're competitive. They're going at each other. They're having their fun, but they also understand that both sides can make each other better. So if Bolton and McDuffie see something, they're going to tell Mahomes, hey, we're noticing you do this. This is giving away something. And it's vice versa, for Mahomes and the defense. That's huge. To start doing that in OTAs, to get on that same page with those guys in OTAs, and really go that direction, that tells you how locked in this team is going towards a three-peat.
And it's got to be that way because the offense has a ways to go. Despite what was some sluggish play, obviously a lot of drop issues last season, they were able to get something done. Doing that back-to-back is even more impossible than it was last season. So you got to get sharpened now and that much more from that defense. I hope that they can continue that. This is just the first day back. I'm sure there's a lot of having fun out there because you haven't seen these guys in months. You've been laying low, doing your training, taking care of your body, especially for a team that's been back-to-back Super Bowls with 20-game seasons. Now it's kind of like, okay, go away and rest and get back. So that unfortunately is not the case for one guy that we want to see out there and in this deep game as well. Xavier Worthy didn't participate today. Looks like he strained a hamstring sometime in the last two practices that no one was able to see. Looks like it was precautionary, nothing to be terribly concerned about. But I think that's part of the ramp up into the pro game. Is he had a couple of things first day in rookie camp. Now he's missing something here in the first OTAs. There's a number of them as we go through before veteran minicamp. So just getting him acclimated is certainly something that you got to watch for. But I think if you can concentrate on Brown now and bring Worthy back soon, it just adds to the mix.
But you mentioned Worthy, and the thing that sticks out to me about him is both Reid and Mahomes praised how intelligent he is. He is a speed receiver. We know that. We know that from everything. Obviously, his 40 time, whatever. But the bigger thing that I think is going to be such a key for this offense and key for him in the NFL is how intelligent both Reid and Mahomes feel that he is. Mahomes said even though he's not on the field, he is asking all the right questions to the receivers that are on the field, trying to learn as much as he possibly can when he's not there. And that's exactly what you need from a first-round pick, a guy that has the ability to step in and change the offense just because of his breaking speed. But his intelligence is, if it allows him to get into the game quicker, is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and it's got to be. I'm ready for that aspect. I got to come up with a good nickname, but I need this duo to take off, and I think all of Kansas City does as well. We're going to continue to watch that as we go through next week's OTAs. But coming up next, we got to get to the other bits and pieces. There's a lot going on in OTAs. Obviously, it's a full roster yet again, so there's a lot of nooks and crannies. We're going to run down two standouts, guys that are returning from injury that showed up today that I'm pretty excited about. We'll do that right on the backside of this here on the Locked On Podcast Network.
Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and access the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. Let's get straight to the point. You want to grow your portfolio to deal with the rising cost of inflation to pay off your debt or your mortgage, pretty much anything standing in the way of you and your financial freedom, right? With Yahoo Finance, you can access to the news, data, and tools that you need in order to help reach that financial freedom. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or are looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. They're the number one finance destination, producing a holistic view of the financial news cycle, including breaking news, original editorial perspectives, analyst ratings, independent research, customizable charts, and so much more. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. A comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors, and it's how Yahoo Finance ensures you have the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. With a community of over 90 million users each month, the real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com. The number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com.
Locked On Sports Today feed is where you go for 24/7 coverage of all the major sports stories right now. You can find it here on YouTube. Go ahead and like and sub and hit the bell over there. And you can also find it on Amazon Fire TV. And if you're tired of ESPN and CBS and all the talking heads, get local coverage that is down to the minute. Check it out on Locked On Sports Today. Today is a day that we're running down the other pieces that stand out, made some noise. We're going to cover the defense in a lot more in depth tomorrow, but a couple of things did really stand out to me as almost a relief moment. They are in the form of one cornerback, Najee Johnson, and one safety, Brian Cook, both of whom were active, participating today. Not in team, and that's all right, but a lot of other injuries, you might be worried that they're maybe just on the sideline or they're just observing, but they were actually active. And most importantly, Brian Cook had no visible brace on. His lower body looks intact and ready to go. And if he has to ramp up and maybe he doesn't even get into team drills this spring, I'm okay with that. The fact that he's able to be out there and have the confidence in that knee to just start moving without a brace on, I think that's a huge plus for what we're looking at for the season.
Yeah, and McDuffie talked about him specifically. He said, it's a lot of fun to see guys back out there that weren't able to play last year, weren't able to finish the season. And you got a guy in Cook who was playing fantastic for Kansas City early in the season and then got hurt late with the ankle injury, and he's able to come back. And as you said, no brace. That's a fantastic sign for him. He's doing his cuts. He's been able to do what he needs to do. Obviously, you want to see him in team drills, but there's no reason to push him back at this point. If he's not 100% or not, where they want him to be, wait until training camp. Get him as close to 100% as you can possibly get him before you put him out there.
Yeah, I have to agree. Caution is the better side of valor at this point, but without having to force it, being able to take that time, I think that's a huge plus. Najee Johnson very much similar in that he is wearing a brace. I believe that's not an indication that he's less far along in his recovery or anything like that. It's the nature of the injury. And there are times, especially when you are, and everybody's different, even if it's the same technical diagnosis, everybody's got a different reaction to it. And so you do want to support that in a specific way to the athlete. So I'm pretty happy to see both those guys out there. What else stood out to you from today about the other bits and pieces?
Well, you talk about Najee Johnson, and the thing with that is, it hits a knee injury, and I know I'm not a pro athlete, but I've had plenty of knee injuries in my career in high school and in college and whatnot. And the big thing for me is just always making sure the knee was stable and having a brace on it, trying to make sure it's stable, getting the confidence in your ability to do what you need to do on the field is extremely important. So I'm glad that they have a brace on. I think that that's a good sign that he's even able to be on the field. Obviously, he got injured in August, so that's something that you would expect him to be able to start running and doing those types of things that he's doing now. He's still probably going to be not what he was going in training camp last year, even throughout the season, maybe. ACLs usually take a year, at least a year to get back from. We'll see. But it's encouraging to have him out there. Some of the other guys, some of the other young guys, you talk about Chamari Connor, you talk about Nick Jones, those guys getting out there and running through all the different positions that Spagnuolo was having them run through, knowing where they're supposed to be, figuring things out this early on in their career. And that may seem like a small thing, but when you're talking about having to know the nickel position, the outside corner position, the safety positions, that's a lot of information for a young player to take on.
It certainly is. And the mental reps just kind of stack up this time of year. Get as many in as you possibly can and try to take care of them. I think also as many looks as you can get in different variations is there as well. We saw Generic Prince and Louis Rezamet taking punts and kicks in general. So I think that's just going to be a continuation for both of them, given where they are on the depth charts. If either of them can make some noise there, knowing that you have Worthy, and you can probably put Kadarius Toney in there as well. Like there's enough, I think, options for Dave Toub and his return units. You just want to see that kind of grab some reps when you can, especially if you're the Welshman Zamet, to try and just make continual steps forward at getting used to not only the game itself, but the speed of this game. And I think that's really going to be the defining point for his progress.
Well, and I'm glad you brought up the returning units, because that was also a topic that Andy Reid was asked about in his presser was, how do you feel about these new kickoff rules? And he was honest. He said, Toub's doing a great job, but I still don't know how to feel about it because they just don't know yet. I mean, it's too new. And the bigger problem that you're going to have is you can't really practice all that stuff until you get to training camp because you're not allowed to hit. And without being able to hit, you can't take the same approach that you would. So it's just going to be a different thing. So that's definitely going to be something to watch. Really curious to see how that turns out because this new kickoff rule could be something that's very intriguing. I will say, and this is a little bit, this was a note that came out today. One of the other things Andy Reid was asked about was there is going to be a new rule, or not a new rule, a new way to spot the ball and to measure for first downs in the NFL during the preseason. That was also something that he was asked about. And it's another thing that he said, we'll have to see how it goes. Technology is great. And he expects that it's going to be something that's going to be great going forward. I think it's a great idea, and I'm excited that they're trying something in the preseason. We may end up seeing it during the 2024 regular season as well.
Yeah, I'm very interested as well. I like take some of the guesswork out of it. I didn't see the technology that's based on. We can probably cover that more in depth next week, folks. But it is going to be an electronic, a wireless way to track the ball's progress, especially for first downs, goal line situations. I think that could be super, super useful. As we get more details, we'll break it down for you. We also have to go over what's not going on right now. Who's not able to practice out at OTAs? And what does that mean, both return-wise and who's taking those reps? That's coming up next here in the Locked On Podcast Network. This comes down to making the most out of your planning. Right now, you might have week 13 circled on the schedule. Patrick Mahomes certainly does. That is Raiders week. And if there's any other matchup that you want to get your tickets on early, it's probably that one. I tend to buy late, and that's why Gametime is my favorite spot to go because they help you do everything that you need last minute if you don't plan very well ahead like I do. But knowing that the NFL schedule is out makes things a little bit easier. But last minute deals can save you up to 60%, not just on ball games at Arrowhead, but concerts, comedy, theater, anything that you need to get venue tickets for. It does make things a lot easier, and all-in pricing gives you that total up front so you don't have to be surprised about anything related to buying those tickets. I love the view that you get on the Gametime app from those seats. So you know exactly how you're going to be seeing the ball game. That's super important. And I think, especially for the Raiders, you want to be able to get the best view that you can get, knowing that Max and Pat are going to be going at it yet again. The easiest way to take the guesswork out of buying tickets is with Gametime. Download that app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONNFL. That's going to get you $20 off of your first purchase. No matter what it is, whether it's Arrowhead tickets, soccer ball games, whatever the theater is going on in town, anything gets you $20 off. Terms do apply. But again, you can create that account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL, and you get $20 off that purchase. Download the Gametime app. It's last minute tickets, it's lowest prices, and it's guaranteed. Now, it's always good to focus on what's going on, who's stepping up, but we got to keep note of who's not able to go. And there's always a group. This is not anything, I think, earth-shattering. We shouldn't read too much into this. And I don't think for the bulk of this that they're missing anything too dramatic. But it was a good group of veteran-type players that were not able to participate today who stood out to you.
First off, I want to mention that there are two guys that were actually there but did not practice. Charles Omenihu and Derek Nottie. Both those guys we knew had surgery, so they were just watching from the sidelines. Kind of what you expect from those types of players. I would expect that Nottie is still the starter, and Omenihu obviously is probably going to be pushing for a starting role when he's able to get back. So those are the first two guys. They were there, but they didn't practice. The interesting list is the guys that actually weren't there. Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Joe Thuney, Kadarius Toney, and I think there's one more.
And not being present, especially for that list of players, again, is not earth-shattering. Would you like to see him moving around? I know Travis is probably lost somewhere in Europe right now. I think that's where the Paris tour is. I don't know. A lot goes into that. But I don't think missing OTAs is a sign of anything. In the chat, folks, I'm sorry, we're not taking questions today. We will do some live Q&A shows here over the summer. Not able to just hit them all right now just because of time. But a lot of folks asking about KT. And I don't think that necessarily means anything. If that becomes a pattern and we don't see him by veteran minicamp, if he misses all of OTAs, okay, then we can say something's up. Right now, I'm not ready to say that. And honestly, I don't really care because I want the young guys to get as many reps right now as they possibly can.
And the other one was Clyde Edwards-Helaire was not there as well. So that was the one I was missing. Sorry about that. The one thing I will say about Kadarius Toney not being there is it looked like that he was being fitted for a brand new street bike at the time of OTAs today. So that's not the greatest look if that's part of why he wasn't there. Bit different. But yeah, so
and I hate to speculate.
Am I horribly concerned about Joe Thuney not being there? No, he's coming off an injury. He probably couldn't work anyway. Not worried about him. Not really too worried about Chris Jones and Travis Kelce. Although I will say this, for all the young guys that are out there, especially Jared Wiley at the tight end room, I would have expected Kelce was going to be there. I think he usually attends OTA, so maybe he's going to be there next week. They got 4 days next week. They got 3 days the week after that. So we'll see if he returns. Not really worried about most of the guys that are missing at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't want to speculate too hard on Kadarius Toney, but at this point, if there's a reason, there's a reason. I think we're all in the same point here where if you can contribute and you're bought in, come on back. Let's see what you can do. If you're not, we ain't missing much. I think the fact that last year they were able to do without any considerable contribution what they were able to accomplish, I think one way or the other, it's going to be what it is. They have talent to spare. I think, honestly, if that is a legitimate reason, that the reason being that Kadarius chose not to participate, that's your own decision. You're going to have to reap the benefits or the impact of that.
Well, I mean, to me, it's optics. And I hate saying that because unfortunately that's what a lot of this stuff comes down to, and it's optics. And it's a bad look because I saw it come out right as they were talking about OTAs, and maybe he was there a couple days before getting the bike. I don't really care. Although I will say this, it's also interesting he's getting a street bike because I wouldn't think that you'd be allowed to do that as an NFL player because there are some restrictions that they have.
Somebody call Veach
because of a past. Yeah. So optics suck. I will say that. Hopefully we're wrong. And that was it's bad. It's a bad look. And for a guy that has been touted as being the most talented wide receiver they have, to have that type of optic show up on the one day that the media can actually be at practice, not a good look.
Yeah, and more importantly, it's diminishing his trade value, I'm pretty sure. So defeating my purpose as well.
Not sure. Folks, we will have one anyway.
Well, it might be gone now. Folks, we will run down the defense tomorrow, what stood out as we get more detail. And then we're right back to it next week, getting ready for another set of practices in OTAs for particularly all the young guys. But this roster as it comes together, who will be in, who will be out, and what's going to happen, we'll run that down for you each day. So make sure that you're subscribed. Our locos, the Locked On Chiefs everyday supporters, are always here every single day, whether it's on audio or video or in the chat or in the text line at 816-357-8781. And that's how you stay up to snuff on what's going on around this team. I know it's summertime and a lot of folks start to drift away, but we're going to keep you informed. All you got to do is be here for the episodes, and we will take care of the rest. Thanks for spending your time with us. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell. Check out the audio platforms on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Get it whenever you can get it. We will schedule some Q&As coming up for you guys. Thank you to all the regulars that are in here. Justin, Sharon, Callie, Micah, Kale. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.